Good evening. I'm Randy Davis, the Watchman, and this is my therapy dog, Zeus. I had to get a therapy dog because there were some people, Timothy Charles Homestead and apparently Randy Q. Erickson, and that's Randi. And the reason why is because they seem to be somehow mentally shattered because I flew off like a cheap hubcap on a guy named, what's his name? Chad Cater, a sovereign citizen last night. So I brought them a therapy dog. So that should eliminate all of that situation of worrying about any of that. And then I'm going to tell y'all, go ahead, Zeus, you can lay down beside me. I'm going to tell y'all what happened last night because I did fly off like a cheap hubcap. And let me tell you why. It wasn't Chad Cater. It wasn't. It wasn't. There was two other things. Number one, the show got out of control and we couldn't keep it balanced. And I was trying to because I was seeing things. Those of you that were watching, you may have seen me frantically taking notes. And then when I couldn't reel it back in, I flew off. We've handled it and it won't happen tonight. But here's the bottom line. Because of this, a lot of things came out last night that were missed. They weren't missed by me, but others missed them. Even perhaps some of you who are watching. And it will blow the lid off what really happened down in Florida with Chris Hallett, E-Clause founder, make-believe fake attorney that can do something, Hallett. He is dead because of a lot of failures. He's dead not just because Neely allegedly murdered him, but he is dead because the state of Florida, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of New York, the state of Kentucky, and to a large degree, the state of South Carolina missed the signs. They really missed the signs and the opportunities. And the bar, we pointed it out last night, and I got messaged from Alexandria Goddard today, who is basically like the paralegal for attorney Kim Picazio, who's dealt with Timothy Charles Homestead this entire time. She's the one that has the injunctions against him, and he violated them. And he also has warrants out for him right now because these people are all intertwined, and we're going to show it tonight. And there are a lot of things that happened last night that we're going to go over, and a lot of interesting comments. You know, we had Sue Blanchard, Neely's mother, who's not allowed to be around the oldest child. Neither is Neely. But she's saying that I was somehow lying. And others like Chad Cater, the sovereign citizen dude, was challenging me on whether or not she's crazy. Well, it is my opinion that she's crazy. She's batshit crazy. My opinion is that Neely Petrie Blanchard is batshit crazy like her mother. And a bat doesn't fall too far from the tree. And I base these things on everything that we've read and everything that we've seen. And in spite of that, you see things, you see crazy things, you see things that don't make sense. But some of you either don't have sense enough to use wisdom or common sense to put it all together, or you just don't care. You're going to defend your teammate or whoever it is you've emotionally attached to, regardless of what they do. It doesn't matter what they do. You're just going to defend them. There's somebody, and she sent me a friend request, but I'm at the limit. I couldn't accept it. Teresa Brewer. She was saying all kinds of crazy stuff in those comments. But here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to show what I believe leaves no doubt in my mind who was involved, who knew about, and who conspired to kill Christopher Hallett. We're going to show, and I think we did last night, because Alexandria Goddard got in touch with me because she's the lady who, she contacted us because a friend told her to the night before she sent the bar complaints to Florida. And after doing so, she assumed that the bar complaints were still in play. We published letters last night that she had never seen, and they were addressed to her. How does that happen? The bar dropped the ball. The state's attorney's office in that district and federal attorneys, I guess, dropped the ball. They did the same thing in Elizabeth Byler's case, where Hallett had done the same thing to him, to her, with his craziness up in Pennsylvania. Hallett also did the same thing to a really special guy in Florida that I know. There was a guy in Florida running for Senate, then he ran for governor, and his name is Bruce Nathan. Bruce Nathan and I spent several hours on the phone years ago when he was first running for office. And he has a physical therapy business. He's a great family man. He's a Christian man. His wife is Jewish and he is Christian. And we spent a lot of time going over his situation. He wrote a book. He sent it to me, signed it, sent it to me. He did a show with me. Well, Christopher Hallett and Kirk Pendergrass, E-Claus, and the rest of them, what they did to this man is they lied about being able to represent him in court. And you can Google Bruce Nathan, E-Claus, Bruce Nathan, Christopher Hallett, and you'll find where they filed stuff to the Republican Party trying to get him in there and just blew it all out of whack. I'm not saying they cost the man his election. I'm just saying these guys were crazy. They did things they shouldn't do. They were, in fact, pretending to be attorneys while at the same time bashing attorneys, which makes no sense. And they're spinning the narrative today. Randy Q. Erickson and the rest of that crowd, Timothy Charles Holmseth, who the law is looking for right now. Kirk Pendergrass, he's got an outstanding warrant. We showed it last night. But these people are nuts, and yet somehow they're running around loose on Facebook. And they should have a right to do whatever they want to do. I don't want to stifle them. They're welcome to come on here and defend it. I did that last night with a nut job. And I didn't care about him. He didn't matter to me. It was what I uncovered last night that nobody else saw. And tonight, during this show, we're going to present that. And it's going to answer a lot of questions some of you had but didn't want to answer. And we're going to go over what we uncovered last night and what some of you may have missed. But I want to reiterate here, there are nuts out there pretending to have some sort of legal strategy, some magic wand, some bloody thumbprint affidavit, including Shannon Mutter Tanis. Shannon Mutter Tanis was foreclosed on her home. She was foreclosed on her home about a month ago, month and a half, whatever. She knew she was losing her home. They took her home. You don't pay, you can't stay. That's what a real estate attorney that we used to use, and when I was in real estate, he would say at every closing that I sat in on, you don't pay, you can't stay. And she didn't pay, but she felt somehow she had a legal right to stay there. Just take other people's property. The essence of what's going on with these people is the same thing. They feel they can take anything they want. They can take liberty to call themselves attorneys. They can take liberty to call themselves sovereigns or nationalists or whatever, and the laws don't apply to them. And Neely is supposedly, she would be like Field McConnell. We don't see him anywhere because the lawyers probably got him reined in, so he's staying quiet. But these people, we didn't bring out a lot of these things that can be easily researched, but we're going to tie it all together. And I'm going to start tonight by tying Chad Cater into it. And I'm going to show you how intertwined it goes. Then we're going to do what we didn't get around to doing last night, which was the shiny thing. And Francesca Amato is another one. Francesca Amato, punished for protecting the Justice League, all of this stuff that she did. She's got a bunch of them in there, but she has close ties with Christopher Hallett. How? Because all the records show, and her claims on her P4P, which is punished for protecting, are that she had federal attorneys who would help people, and then she would raise money. They would do GoFundMes. People would send money, and she was paying the, quote, federal attorneys. Well, a federal attorney, one of them was a guy named Goldstein, but he's not a federal attorney. And the other one was Christopher Hallett. They praised him. So did David Jose. We got a little special bonus tonight on David Jose, too, by the way. But let me get here to Chad Cater is where we'll start. And how does this all play into Neely and everything? Hold on, and we're going to bring it to you. So Chad calls me the other day. A friend of mine had him to call me. I've never talked to a man in my life. Don't know him. He seemed like a good guy. I bet I spent 2 hours, as he said last night, with him on the phone, and he seemed reasonable. He seemed nice. And last night he comes on and he's completely different. Why? And then why were certain people involved in the show last night? And then they're writing articles today. And you can look on Timothy Charles Holmes says, whatever it is, WordPress, or on Randy Q. Erickson. They just did a whole thing. They replayed my video or shared it into their story and said, don't trust him. Look, he's crazy. Oh, yeah, I'm passionate. I'll go off on an asshole in a minute. And I went off on Chad Cater last night, but it really wasn't about Chad. It's because of what I uncovered, which you're going to see here in just a little bit. And I wanted to get out, but I was getting hindered on the show from getting things out and keeping it rolling in the way that I wanted to. And I was frustrated. I was taking notes and going back over them. I couldn't get back to the outline. And I had spent a lot of time trying to put this together in a way to get it a little more easy to understand and follow as a story. But bottom line, as of today, and this comes from Alexandria Goddard, but there's MSNBC interested in this because you got a dead man that if a bar association in Florida, or the one in Pennsylvania where Elizabeth Byler is, or in New York where everything was sent, or the FBI who came here to North Carolina personally and picked up things on these people. If any of them, Kentucky, South Carolina, where Neely and her mother's reign of terror went rampant, any of these people could have stopped this man from being dead. Now, I have no love lost for this guy, but I'm going to start with Cater and tell you what I learned in the conversation that's going to be shocking to some, and some of you probably know. But it's going to tie a bunch of them together. Then we're going to go to the situation with John Gentry, Chris Hallett, Kirk Pendergrass, and what a little thing, it was a private messenger group called A Time to Be Men. And it's because of Chris Hallett calling me out, threatening me, he's going to roll me over, everything. We're going to play a couple of clips of things that Chris posted into that group, and I'll show you everything in the group. And it's because Chris had made a blunder, called me out, called me a liar, then claimed he thought I was somebody else, and he had tried to take credit for something that we had helped a woman to do. And he shouldn't have done that. And then John Gentry, who's running for governor of Tennessee right now, and I've spent time, you saw the photographs last night in the show, he did what he normally does. He cowers down. He chickened away. And you'll see the words he used that I think should chill all of you. And it's the reason why the movement doesn't go anywhere when you see him. But we'll start out with Chad, and I'll tell you what he told me. Chad Cater is talking to me, and he says, Randy, I know this Shannon Mutter Tanis. And I said, really, brother? I don't know who you are. I don't understand it. And he said, well, here's the story. And William Murtaugh, you're going to be interested in this. Here's what he goes into. He says that there was a time and there was a meeting, and essentially, I guess what it was is Timothy Charles Holmes said, and I don't know if Field McConnell was involved in it or whoever, because, and some of you know these names, some are going to have to Google. But for whatever reason, there was something going on up in the Wisconsin area or wherever it is he lives. I believe it's Wisconsin, and where Timothy Charles Holmseth was. But bottom line is, Chad had to go over and pick up Kirk Pendergrass and David Strait and some others, and he had to take them somewhere for something they were doing. There was a get-together, a meeting, something. And during that time, he tells me, he relays the story of being at this particular place, and it was himself and Kirk Pendergrass talking. And Kirk says, we got to do something with Shannon Mutter Tanis. And he said, well, I don't know what I can do. Chad tells him, I don't know what I can do with Shannon Mutter Tanis. And for those of you that don't know, not only did she get evicted after being foreclosed on, but she's the woman now running E-Claws down in Florida. She's the woman who was witness to the murder of Christopher Hallett. She's the woman who's in the house. She's the woman who was blocking this show being shared last night. And you got to ask yourself, why? Why was she? Maybe she's not telling the whole story. So how does she connect? When Chad relayed his story to me, Kirk had told him, don't worry about it. I'll get her a hotel room. And Chad had allowed Kirk to use Chad's personal work vehicle, his work van, to drive around during the time he was there. No problem there. And Kirk says, I'll get her a room, no big problem. You can drop her off at a room or whatever. Chad said he agreed. And this is all on recorded calls because all of mine are recorded. So if Chad wants to argue that fact, I'll shut that down quick and just play the recording. But bottom line, it came time for Chad to leave with Shannon Mutter Tanis. So he's leaving with her and he's like loading her up in the van, whatever. Then Kirk just comes over in front of her. He's no longer alone with Chad talking, according to Chad. And he says, yeah, just go ahead and Shannon's going to be staying at your house tonight. And Chad's like, did that what? At my house? Nah, she wouldn't like that. I only have a 1-bedroom place. And I'm a bachelor and it wouldn't be comfortable. And Chad says, Shannon Mutter Tanis relays to him that, oh, that's no problem. That's not a problem at all. I can sleep on your couch. I'm used to it. Everything is all good. So Kirk pulled a fast one on him. He doesn't get her a room. And suddenly now he's on his way home and he's thinking about it. And he said, I just didn't feel right. Something not right about Shannon Mutter Tanis. And he offered to get her a hotel room so she would not go to his house. However, she didn't want it. He didn't want to be rude, said Chad, and he took her on to his house. He proceeded to tell me that he and Shannon Mutter Tanis went into the backyard and he built a fire. And Shannon was on the phone with somebody he doesn't know. He's looking across the fire and he looks at her, and Chad began to tell me about a spiritual revelation he had. And that spiritual revelation, according to Chad, was that Shannon Mutter Tanis, her entire face began to morph. And it morphed and disfigured into a demonic face with horns, and her cheekbones protruded. And she was just evil. And he looked back and he was embarrassed at himself. And he's thinking, I didn't really just see that. There's probably something wrong. And he looked back again and she still looked that way, according to Chad. And it shocked him so much that it was late at night and he has a friend. And his friend is the Catholic guy. And the Catholic guy told him and advised him, according to Chad, that yes, you've had a gift given you by being able to see this. And he called him even after his bedtime hours, according to him. And before long, he goes on to relay to me just how crazy, and I'm going to use the word crazy because he did, that Shannon Mutter Tanis and how dangerous and demonic she was. And he, during the middle of the night, he hears screaming, just screaming and raging in his house because she's in there and she's screaming. And he's thinking, what in the world? And then she later comes to him and apologizes, but she had been on the phone with her own child and was raging at her own child. And she's like, yeah, I didn't mean to do that in front of you. I didn't mean to do this, that, and the other. But from there, and that's a little background into Chad's whatever going on with Chad. But Chad proceeds to tell me that he also got a call from Randy Q. Erickson. And apparently during this time, Timothy Charles Homseth, and Homseth is a guy, like I said, Kim Picasio, the attorney out of Florida. There's warrants on this guy for that. He also, Timothy Charles Homseth, claims to be the leader of the high command, the quote, high command. And also, just as Kirk Pendergrass does, he claims to be part of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. Now, this would be a Pentagon pedophile task force created by Trump, and they're in charge of helping people to find children. You know, they find mole children, they find children in tunnels, they make up foolishness and people swallow it up. And he generally does his broadcast from a McDonald's parking lot or anywhere else he can get Wi-Fi, begging for money, and he has cardboard and old socks hanging over the window or whatever he can to disguise his location because they're looking for the guy. Well, what he tells me is that Timothy Charles Holmseth has been kicked out of his home. And for whatever reason, these people just go stay in whoever's home. But this one, he's kicked out of his home, and he was paid by Randy Q. Erickson to go to the home of Timothy Charles Holmseth and get all of his belongings. So he did, and he stored them in his garage or somewhere in his house until she told them to bring them to her. So now you've got David Strait, you've got Kirk Pendergrass, you've got Shannon Mutter Tannis, you've got Chad Cater, and you've got Timothy Charles Holmseth and Randy Q. Erickson all gangled in there together. They've been working together. Maybe you don't know who they are, but there they are. And they're all sovereign citizen nut jobs. They're idiots. But anyway, he proceeds to tell me, and this is the part that Mert will like, and Agent 19 will like. But he tells me that what happened next is he, for whatever reason, just found a random thumb drive that had fallen out of Timothy Charles Holmseth's belongings. Maybe a milk crate, perhaps, was his word. And he found it, didn't know if it was his or what, and so he proceeded to look at it. Once he looked at it, there were photographs on there. There were photographs on this thumb drive. And one of the photographs, according to Chad Cater, he sent to William Murtaugh. And he sent it with a caveat that the face of the child should be blotted out in order to not embarrass or cause harm to the child. And according to Chad Cater, what happened next is that Murtaugh deceived him. Yeah, that's right, Mert. He said you deceived him, and you did it very cunningly, because here's what you did, apparently, according to Chad Cater. According to Chad Cater, you sent the photograph unredacted with no face blocked out over to Agent 19. And Agent 19, in turn, published the photograph with no face blocked out. After Agent 19 had posted said photograph without the child's face blotted out, then you, Murtaugh, you in turn copied it from him and said, well, it wasn't blocked out there, so I can use it myself. And I said, well, this is a very convoluted story, but how in the world, and what photograph? What photograph is it? Why would a child's face need to be blotted out? Is there something that happened? So what's in it? What is this thing? And here's what it is, folks, and it's a relatively popular photo around that crowd over there. But this is a photograph where Timothy Charles Holmseth had dressed his little boy, and this is a very young child. He had dressed his child in a dress and heels and lipstick and all sorts of dainty little things to make him a girl, and he is hugging him. And that's just not normal, in my opinion. Not normal. Why would he have a photograph like that? Why would this guy have a photograph like this? Is Chad passing around photographs? Little boys dressed up like little girls? I don't know. But these are the people who will question you. These are the people who will literally question you on what you're doing. And then what this crazy Timothy Charles Holmseth, I'm calling him crazy too, what he is accusing today, he and Randy Q. Erickson in his little blog or whatever they call it, is that I lost my mind. And I'm going to tell you something, when you got it in your mind, everything that I do about this thing, and then you're dealing with an idiot like Chad, you should be crazy. You really should be crazy, But these people, for whatever reason, they don't need to provide any evidence. They don't need to do anything at all. And right now, here's what their theory is. Their theory being promoted right now is that somehow I, Randy Davis, I'm somehow promoting the taking of children, the bar. I'm somehow a spokesman for the attorney, Kim Picasio, even though I've never communicated directly with her that I know of in my life. All we did was place facts onto a little social media platform called The Watchman. And for whatever reason, that means I'm suddenly in love with bar attorney, CPS, all kinds of stuff. So here's a little thing. Maria didn't know I was going to do this, but I think we need to see some things. And then we're going to go into the other things, and we are going to address Gentry and the Time for Men and the Where Are They Now Justice League. And we're going to show what happened in that murder and who was the accomplices. But for right now, let's just look at something random. Maria, I would like to ask you if you could search for a video called Help Me Get Back to My Dad, Cheyenne Davis. And while you're looking for that, I'm going to kind of set it up with the audience out here and say, when you see this video, I want you to understand this is a video that was done by my daughter. And it was done by my daughter while I was in what eventually was a 5-month stay in Sampson County Detention Center on no charge, no sentence, no court order, no bond, no bail, and their records indicated I was not in there. Now, how could that happen? Now, Sampson County are the very same people who killed my cat and dog, arrested me 3 times, charged me with 8 criminal charges, put my daughter on missing and exploited children's list when none of it was real. And I got a court order returning my daughter. And I can show my court order. And they did this because I was a writer exposing USDA, HUD, NAHASTA, and Section 8 fraud. I had no idea the bear I poked. And that, my friends, is how DSS got into my life. It wasn't DSS, by the way. It was 9 cops, but they were all off duty. They're using little black flip phones. And it sounds like something from outer space, but we're going to watch a video on that. But the reason I'm going to show these things is because those that would think that I'm just out here and somehow I like to go around and promote attorneys or judges or whatever. There are good attorneys. There are good GALs. There are good judges. There are fair ones. And there are bad ones. But I have fought to expose the bad ones. I have fought to help families that are in bad cases. But what you have with like Neely and her mother, you have shitty people that are demented. They're criminally insane, in my opinion. They have issues that they should never have a child. And they want you, and I'm talking to you out there who didn't have a reason for them to take your children. They want you to believe they're just like you. And if you don't start to question them, you're going to have big problems. You're going to go down the road Neely did, and several others did. Elizabeth Byler did. Cynthia Absug did. Arlena Willis did. Melissa Grover still is. Melissa Deagle, 140 years she's facing, Arizona. So I want to show you this too, and let you make up your own mind. So if you wouldn't mind, let that video rip if you could, please, Maria.
I'm Felicia Cheyenne Davis, daughter of Randy Scott Davis. I'm 17 years old, and I'm hiding from DSS, Sampson County, North Carolina, because over a year ago, 3 weeks before my 16th birthday, Sampson County DSS, along with Sampson County Sheriff's Department, kidnapped me from my family. Since then, I've been placed in 2 abusive and neglectful foster homes, and a little under a year after the initial kidnapping, I was returned to my father because the courts found that he never neglected or abused me and there was no reason for me to be taken from him in the first place. Well, shortly after I was returned to him, Sampson County DSS decided that they wanted me back in their custody because I was reporting on all the neglect, abuse, injustices that they did to me. And they don't want to be exposed, which is exactly what I was doing. So, Sampson County DSS and Sampson County Sheriff Jimmy Thornton have worked together to have my dad arrested, and he's being held in Sampson County Detention Center in North Carolina. If someone could just get a hold of him somehow, let him know that I'm okay and I love him, I'd be greatly appreciative. Right now, I'm staying with some friends that they look out for me and they care for me, they provide for me, they help me out a lot. And, I'm safe and I'm happy here, but it's not home. It's not with my dad, which is where I really want to be. My dad's always helped me out with homework, anything that I needed. And he's never let me go without something that I need. Sampson County DSS kept me out of school for weeks at a time. They withdrew me from my 7th high school and never enrolled me anywhere else. So, my dad was homeschooling me. Well, now he's in jail, so how am I supposed to get an education? Because Sampson County wants me in their grip so badly that they're trying to do anything they can to get me back. So I can't enroll in school, I can't get a job, I can't even go to a doctor. I need some help, and my family needs help. GAL attorney Morgan Swenson has threatened to press charges against my family for not telling them where I am. But my family doesn't know where I am, and I'm not going to tell anyone where I am because I'm not going to endanger anyone else. And I can't go back to foster care. I'm 17 years old. I'm smart enough to know what's good for me and what's not. And going back to a place where I was abused and neglected, no, I'm not going to do that. So if you see this video and you know anyone that could help me, lawyers, congressmen, senators, anyone, please help and let my dad know I'm okay and I love him. Thank you.
Now, folks, let me explain something. You're looking at a video. These people are telling you I'm somehow in love with GALs and everybody else. But the problem is, when she did this video, Cheyenne did it, there's no case. I've got a court order signed on 9/11/2014, and it had in it that DSS had a statutory duty to return my daughter within 24 hours. It ended the case. There is no case. There's no case. There's no charge against me, but I'm in jail. We knew they were going to do something because their whole actions were due to something much larger than what you can see. Had nothing to do with DSS. And it was my downfall because I thought from that moment forward that every DSS case was like mine and they had just retaliated against people like myself. Now, where was I writing these things? Katie Pavlich of Fox News and James O'Keefe, who you see on Project Veritas, they had made me a writer in 2012, told me I'd be retaliated against, and I didn't believe it would get to this, but it did. I'll tell you somebody else that made me a writer. I was a writer with Citizen Watchdog at that time. Ann Kane was my editor. I wrote these articles. It came out. When it came out, then they were mad, and 7 days later, 9 cops came after me with little black cell phones. There was no DSS. They held us for 3 hours with no warrant. Maria, I'd like for you to do me another favor if you could, and just search for Randy Davis arrested and detained. And let's see what comes up. See, folks, some of these people who would tell you all of this stuff, they depend on your ignorance and your laziness in order to get by with it. So when Timothy Charles Holmes said, Randy Q. Erickson and the rest of them, or Sue Blanchard, oh, this guy's just out to do harm. When they do that, they bet on the people that followed them as being ignorant and sheep and incapable of using what I call Google. And they don't even Google to see whether what they're being told to believe is true and correct or not. And the reason I bring that up is because they do as they're told. And they'll tell you, I was told to. I was told to. We heard that last night from a guy that looks like a really good guy. A really, really good guy who was apparently enamored by Neely. And her spell worked on him. But Ronnie Knowles, he was told. He was told by Hallett. He was told by John Gentry, Tennessee gubernatorial candidate, and he fell for it. The issues we face today in America is because most of America is stupid. They're too stupid and lazy to look it up on their own. They take everybody's word for whatever, and whenever they're told to do something, they just do it. I don't. If Maria's able to pull up this video, if not, I'll find it and pull it up myself. But
is it the one that says Sampson County, North Carolina police officer illegally detains USDA whistleblower?
Yeah, that's probably a medical kidnap story. There were several stories that were written, but there should just be, you can go to Randy Davis on YouTube, or actually it's Team Rev It Up.
Yeah, I'm on that page now.
And there'll be like a cartoon with a little pig on it. And you'll see it's a little black emblem on it. There's a lot of them on there. As a matter of fact, there's several hundred hours of video that we did that we've never released yet. And we did them with the hopes of using it to help other people later. Because we don't like the fact that DSS does things to people that shouldn't be involved in cases in order to retaliate against them. And a lot of the things you see right now, not to become too political, but when you see defund the police, it's not about defunding the police. It's about moving the money from the police funding over to DSS and creating a more powerful DSS. That's what that truly is all about. But if you can't find that one, let's go to this. Let's go to Fayetteville Observer, Randy Davis, and I'll get the other one later, or you can look while I go over the Fayetteville Observer article. Because whenever I tell you folks that, look, I'm not an attorney, but I wasn't taking their attorney. If I was truly guilty or had any ideations that I was going to be found guilty, I would have taken a lawyer. But I represented myself in my court cases when they filed them. And there were a total of 8 criminal charges: failure to heed a blue light, resisting, obstructing. I think I got those like 2 or 3 times. I had obstruction of justice, all sorts of charges. Every single one was dismissed with me representing myself. I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart at all. And folks, for those of you who wonder who I am and why I don't like being accused of stuff like Chad did, let me explain something. After they had gotten me, well, you just heard my daughter tell you, she told you that they removed her from school. She was a National Honors Award winner. Why did they remove her from school? Because they did not have a petition, a removal order, or any other documentation to support taking her. So they couldn't enroll her into school. And what I did is I knew this, and I pressed in and found out they used what was called the McKinney-Vento Act. The McKinney-Vento Act is a situation where when DSS gets a child in its care, let's say one of the immigrants at the border has a child. Well, they obviously won't have a home county, and the home county has to pay for their education. So if they don't have one, they use the McKinney-Vento, which is the Homeless and Immigrant Act, in order to pay for it. What I caught Sampson County DSS doing is they illegally used the McKinney-Vento Act as though my daughter was homeless or an immigrant, because they could not do it the proper way. At that time, I went directly to the school. I had it out with a social worker. That's on video as well, because they couldn't do anything. I couldn't get my own daughter into school, so I filed a FERPA complaint. I'm going to show you right now what the results of that FERPA complaint were, so you know if I'm real, or if it's Timothy Charles Holmseth who dresses his little boy in lipstick and a dress and heels. That's real. Now, when we look at this, the headline is Cumberland County Schools found to be in violation of federal education law. Risks federal funding. See, whenever you read the FERPA laws and maybe you don't know what they are, they protect people's rights to their educational records, but they also guarantee a parent the right to those educational records. Now, why would Cumberland County and the Dr. Frank Till was his name? And you can go look this all up, and I'm going to tell you what's in it. Okay, we can go to, can you blow that up where you can see my name in there or anything? But this was the first situation in 43 years where somebody had prevailed, and it was me. Now, who was I going up against? I was going up against Dr. Till, 3 or 4 lawyers. It was all on me to prove my own case, and in the end, I did. And you can't deny a parent the right to these records. It's called the cumulative educational record. And I tell all parents, there's more stuff in there than what you imagine. And here's the reason I wanted those records. And number one, to make sure my daughter's education continued on, which they screwed it up. They would not let me do anything with her education. So there was no court order terminating my rights. There was no court order saying I couldn't have educational records. They just didn't want them to come out. And this is another county. This is not even my county. This is where they put her over there. And Cumberland County comes to play in this thing in a minute. But I'm telling you these things so that you can see, and I'll answer anybody's questions about any bit of it. These other people won't. They won't come on the show. They won't address anything. I've seen attorneys in the comments. They're making comments. They're supporting what I'm saying about these other things, and some of them supplied certain documentation, and we showed it. And yet the followers in the blind sheep, Teresa Brewer, all the other minions that blindly follow Neely, Hallett, Pendergrass, Kirk's Law, they're stupid, but they can't debate me. They will tell you that I'm crazy. I'm making that. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Well, you know what? Sooner or later, you're going to look at it. And sooner or later, when shit hits the fan, you're going to ask me what's going on. Most do. Most do. But you have a right to follow idiots. If you want to destroy your kids, hey, that's a fine thing. But let me just tell you what happened here. After Cheyenne did that, I was contacted by Cumberland County Sheriff Moose Butler's attorney, Ronnie Mitchell. And Ronnie Mitchell said, Randy, and that's because they know me. They know my brother. He said, Randy, Jimmy Thornton, your sheriff, wants to take you out. He wants to kill you. And I said, I know. He's got Cheyenne on a bolo, on a missing and exploited children's list, and her photograph is on every Walmart in America. And he said, what I need you to do is and this is after I got out of jail, and I got out of jail because Jesse Jones, attorney Jesse Jones, same one, he's in Lillington, North Carolina, folks. He's the same one that will countersue Neely Blanchard and Sue Blanchard and the rest of you idiots that are threatening me with a suit because I said she's batshit crazy. But he sent me a writ of habeas corpus. I finally got it after 5 months and figured out how to get out of there. I filed it, and they called me, and I said, you got 24 hours to let me out. What do you want? Or get me before a judge. And they said, well, we want to talk to you. We want you to sign a gag order and remove your videos, and we'll let you out. I said, well, you can shove that up your ass. If you think you're going to screw me over like this and I'm going to lay down, you're stupid. So they left. They come back a few hours later. I said, look, you got 12 hours or my ass is getting out of here. I'm going to a judge. You got to take me there, or somebody owes me some money and shit's going to hit the fan. And then they finally said, look, we're just going to, hey, look, we just forget this. I said, no, we ain't going to forget it, but you're going to let me out. And they let me out. How do you get out? You can't just get out. But you can if there was never any there. And that's exactly what happened. And all I had to do, here's what Ronnie Mitchell told me. Bring your daughter over here to Cumberland County. She's going to walk in to the sheriff's department at the courthouse, and she's going to see the watch commander. He's going to talk to her for a minute, hand her a piece of paper. She's going to walk back out. I'm going to give you 30 minutes to get away from here, and I'm going to call Sheriff Jimmy Thornton and tell him he's going to lose his terminal. That means he's going to lose his sheriff's department authority. And I'm going to tell him to shove that bolo up his ass because we took her off. And that's what he did. That's what he did. Now, you would imagine That really can't happen. Who was involved in it? A Special Agent James Kaler had all the information on the HUD Nahasta Native American fraud, millions of dollars. Senator Brent Jackson, who's our local North Carolina senator, he's the most powerful senator in there. His dad used to cut our hair. Brent Jackson's corporate logo for Jackson Farming Company. He lives in Rebel City. We're Native American. His logo is a coon eating a watermelon. Some of you may not know what that means. He has it on his trucks and everything. It's like he's proud of it. Doesn't see it as anything racist whatsoever to have a coon eating a watermelon. So some of y'all think you're judging me for I'm supporting what's going on when government abuses people. And Timothy Charles Homestead and David Jose, Randy Q. Erickson, they would all bet on your ignorance and your laziness and your complacency, and they would win. But if you don't start to check out things for yourself, you're going to be in a world of hurt from now on. And most people that don't want to listen to us, we're not giving legal advice. We're telling you how to get through your case as fast as possible. And from my experience, whenever you enter in a case on day one, every day during the month that you fart around with foolishness like that during that first month will cost you 1 month, i.e., if you spend 30 days bullshitting around with these idiots, what way, E-Claw, Kirk's Law Corner, any of that, your case will go on for 3 years almost, maybe more. You might not even get your kids back. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Nobody's asking you to come over to us. We have www.teamrevitup.com. Just Team Rev It Up will get you there. You're going to see that stack up with a lot more stuff. You're going to see things change. We had told everybody we're not going to tippy-toe in the middle anymore. We're really going to just take sides and stand on what's right, because some of you are ignorant. You're stupid. Some of you are bright. You know better. But I'm going to stop trying to make people that are stupid not be stupid. You know, you may have been cucumbers at one point or another, but somehow you became pickles. And you can change a cucumber into a pickle, and Hallett and them do it all the time. But you can't change a pickle back into a cucumber. These people have caused people to almost commit suicide. They've caused them to lose their children. They've caused them to kidnap their children. And then you'll have people like Teresa Brewer and the weird things that she's exposing there, even in the comments. And she's saying that somehow Neely's mother had signed guardianship over to Neely. Why would Neely's mother sign guardianship of Neely's children to Neely? If you're a parent, you have a birth certificate, it doesn't matter. You're on there. You're not going anywhere. You're there. You don't need guardianship of your own child. And yet people just swallow it up. They just believe it no matter what. Then if you look at what's going on, Neely has done videos where she just completely accuses her mother. Maria showed you stuff last night where Neely beat her mother with a suitcase, hemmed her up in a house. Her mother claims she's not crazy. She didn't run over a social worker. But she tells it. She tells it to Robert Beatty. Do you have that clip, that little screen clip from Robert Beatty's that I sent you, Maria? And I'll let you read this for me if you don't mind, because it's going to be so tiny in front of me on this little bitty phone. And that's all I'm doing. We don't have a studio. We don't have a great big, we don't have black law dictionaries falling all over my head. And I don't have a whole ton of equipment to do any of this. I'm doing it on a cell phone propped up on a laptop while I'm taking notes, folks. But it doesn't matter because it's the truth. We're not trying to be something that we're not. We're just trying to get you some truth. So let's see what Sue Blanchard said to Robert Beatty in a message.
hang on, it went nuts on me, but let me pull it back up. All right. Randy, is this it here? Dang it, what is wrong with this thing? All right, I'm assuming this is it here. It's
That's it. That's
okay.
it.
Begging them to get involved in the case on what her oldest child reported to us. And we're told the worker wasn't there, but she was, and came to the car with 2 undercover officers to serve a warrant on Neely from the grandmother. Griffin saying Neely stole a tape recorder. We were sitting in the car and they started beating on the windows, and I put the car in reverse and proceeded to the sheriff's office to see I'm assuming that's Detective Olick. Before arriving, we were stopped and arrested for a fake charge. If O had run over a social worker, there would have been a video of that occurrence. Investigate the original complaint on why the grandmother filed for temporary custody. It was because the father was the drug user. She had never gotten jurisdiction over that case because Neely never lived in South Carolina for 3 months and provided proof of that to the courts. After the grandmother kept Mackenzie away from us for 9 months, she went into the schools to get her child after she witnessed the grandmother allow a 5-year-old to go into a convenience store by herself. Okay, I'm assuming I got to keep going. There should be more, right?
I think it's just 2 pages there.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
All right.
Okay, so what you have, and then you had Teresa Brewer there. We can
Oh,
read
you want me
those.
to? That was an accident. It just.
That's accidental is good. Let's just go through some of these things from last night. Because now
Okay.
you just heard Neely's mom say she didn't run over a social worker. Oh, it was a stop sign issue. We posted a court order last night, and you'll see where there is a red light incident that's mentioned in the court order. That is where she ran over the social worker. She's just told you she sped away from officers trying to serve them. Now, maybe you think that's okay. Maybe you think she didn't do anything wrong, but the law did. And she'll play on words just like Fran, Jose, Hallett, and the rest of them do. I wasn't charged with running over a social worker. Okay, a lot of times the plea that comes out later is much reduced than what it should have been. And I don't think there is a quote unquote charge for running over a social worker. But when you're acting stupid, that's what's going to happen. So what do we have from Teresa Brewer? Obviously, this entire broadcast is being run by CPS advocates and attorneys. They're discussing Neely's children, which is unlawful, and this endangers them. I thought I was invited, I guess she meant to say here, to discuss the alleged case against Neely and Chris Hallett, E-Clause et al. She may indeed have mental health issues. What? She may indeed have mental health issues. But everyone who was supposed to be helping her drove her over the edge to insanity, if she is. And there's another part of this, but here's the issue. I warned Neely. I told her that what Chris was allegedly filing was not going to help her criminal cases. She, in fact, was given guardianship by Susan Blanchard herself! Exclamation point. Neely is a malignant, narcissistic mother. Set her up on the false charge of kidnapping. I have proof. What's her next one? Let's just go through all these. I have the documents to prove what I am saying. They're posted on my wall. Susan Blanchard lied and set Neely up on the false kidnapping charge after she gave the twins back to Neely. Now that's interesting. I can't even read that one. You're going to have to take over there, Maria.
It's Robert Beatty. Sue Lynn Neely Blanchard, are you claiming you did not run over someone? And then she says, no, I did not, which is why I was never charged with that. All he was saying is, don't call people crazy when you don't know them. Also, Randy should find the end result before he says, I ran over someone. The end result.
And he
And
asks her,
go ahead.
he asks her, briefly in your own words, explain the incident that led Randy to describe it as you running over someone. And she tells him, Robert, read the previous statement earlier where I did explain it. Did she explain it? No. She, in fact, was explaining how they sped away from deputies and were going to see some detectives. Does that make any sense at all? None. It makes no sense. What she's saying makes no sense. Teresa Brewer, she didn't like Yvonne Hill's comment. That's none of your business. They are safe and doing well. They miss their mom and daddy, but they are just fine under the circumstances. Yeah, let's fly through these. Where is the charge I ran over her? I was charged with running a red light. Now, here's where you connect the fact that, what do you mean I was charged with running? If you accused me of running over a social worker, do you think I'm going to say, I didn't run over a social worker? I was charged with running a red light. No, because I would say, are you insane? I didn't run over a social worker. I wouldn't say, I got a speeding ticket. What? Well, why would this be an appropriate thing to bring up? Because it's in the court order is running a red light, but she ran over a social worker. And she says, Sue, batshit crazy, says, because I am waiting to see who is exposing E-claws for what they were, for lying to my daughter for years, telling her they would help her and making her believe that. Because I am their grandmother and have always done what I thought was best to protect them. I wasn't allowed contact with their oldest child because of what Neely did. Not because of anything I did, because of what Neely did. She must have did something. And then Teresa says, how is it that Chris was alleged to be shot while naked? And how did Neely allegedly get a hold of Chris's gun? Now, here's the deal. This is one of those things that you would call a presupposition. And I'm going to ask you, Teresa Brewer, when did you stop beating your husband? And how is it that beating your husband was ever a good thing? And when did you stop smoking meth? These are presuppositions that set it up so that the reader somehow falls for the foolishness. I have not seen in any official document that Chris Hallett was shot while naked. I have not seen in any official document that Chris's gun was used. And we're going to go over that later, and it's going to play into what we're going to show you is the real reason shit hit the fan last night. Oh, Teresa Brewer. Ronnie knows. Leave Neely and her husband alone. Leave her mother alone. This is not your business, and you need to get out of Neely and her husband's life. Well, I guess Ronnie shouldn't have bought her a truck and spent all that money with her and did all the other things and write nice things to her on Facebook and befriend her. But apparently, Teresa Brewer believes that Neely and her husband are doing just fine. Furthermore, they don't need any more trauma. Removing their daddy at their age would cause severe brain damage and be considered traumatic brain injury. Enough, said Dr. Teresa Brewer. Now, I'm curious about this one. Wonder why she thinks they'd be removed from their daddy. Are they with their daddy? They're not supposed to be with their daddy. Wonder what's going on right here. But we'll go on to the next one and run on through these. Oh, she says, and this is last night, she said, I saw a video of the twins tonight. They are doing well right now. They are better off where they are than in CPS foster homes. And you know what? It may be true that they're better off somewhere other than a CPS foster home. But how did she get a video of the twins at night? Who sent that? Where are the twins? Are the twins not where they're supposed to be according to a court order? Perhaps are they somewhere they shouldn't be? How in the world are they doing well? How does she know? All right, let's keep going.
Well,
I think that was Beatty's. That the end of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does this woman claim to have proof of guardianship forms with Neely's mother giving Neely guardianship of her own children? That's fascinating to me. That's very interesting. And why is it that, according to the mother, Sue, it's Neely's fault that they took the first child? Something she did. What did she do? According to Neely, she didn't do anything. Neely's done several videos where she bashed her mother. And in fact, we produced documents last night where she literally bashed her mother over the head with a suitcase. Maybe that's not crazy to y'all. It's crazy to me. That's my opinion. Not as a professional, but as a lay person. That is insane. That's not smart. Running over people, not exactly the most sane thing on earth. I don't know who this Teresa Brewer is, but apparently she doesn't like anything being shared or shown that's derogatory. She came in, and believe me, I invited her. I invited Jamie Lee Grubbs. I invited Shannon Mutter Tanis, and I invited Ronnie Knowles. And Ronnie Knowles is the only one that had the nuts to show up. He's the only one. I still invite him tonight, right before we do. And this one's not going to be a long show, couple hours, because we're going to get through it here. But this is ridiculous that these people they'll come into the comments and they'll make stuff up. They'll argue with an attorney from South Carolina that's in the comments, and they'll say that she doesn't know what she's doing. And it's, if you notice, it was a fake warrant. It was a fake charge. It was a fake judge. It was a fake court. It's everything fake. Everything is fake. And you got to believe, you've got to do a whole thing. Mythbusters guy, he used to say, I have suspended reality and taken your reality and replaced it with one of my own. And that's what you have to do to follow these idiots. Timothy Charles Holmes, Seth, Randy Q. Erickson, David Jose, Francesca Amata Banfield, E. Claus, Chris Hallett, Kirk Pendergrass, David Strait, David Jose. It doesn't matter. They're the same thing. And all these authorities were warned. And the bar and the attorneys in Florida with the state, they probably are facing some kind of litigation over this thing. I know the media is very much interested in finding out how they dropped the ball and Chris Hallett's dead. But here's the problem. There's other issues just like this. And I'm going to tell you, in a minute, if I can't get him in, I don't know if he's trying to call in. He should be. But we'll introduce you to a guy in North Carolina, and there's a crazy here that was also in a turtle suit, in a mental health hold, and she pooped in her hand and wrote on the wall. Her name's Danielle Hatcher. She changed her name to Hatcher Danielle. She used to follow friends. She follows Chris. She follows all this sovereign citizen stuff. She didn't listen. She used to do go lives on her 30-minute visit a week by Zoom with her child. She would do go lives with Francesca and telling her, look, that's probably not the best use of your time with your child. She didn't listen. What did they do? They used it against her. She doesn't even get to see her anymore. But what did she stoop to? Her attorney's name is Art Blue. He's in Moore County, North Carolina. Now, she'll come up with a lot of conspiracy theories here, but Art Blue, not her attorney, I'm sorry, her husband, her ex-husband, the baby father's attorney, is Art Blue. So this was a custody situation where DSS also testified against her because she too is a lunatic. But this boiled down to a situation where a lot of the Ani Perrick and some of these other crazies were over at her house. Rudy Orr was there. And Rudy Orr sat there as Danielle Hatcher's sugar daddy, a guy named Randy Marshburn, who he is gets, I guess, disability and other things. And Hatcher used to use him to pay her bills and buy her weed. But she had him to go buy two handguns, two 9mm matching handguns, for the express purpose of taking out her ex-husband and Art Blue as attorney. Rudy Orr witnessed it. He witnessed everything that went on. And she plotted it. That's conspiracy to commit murder. That's no doubt not a good thing. And Rudy Orr, and I'll tell you what happened was we put him in contact with Art Blue, let him know what was going on. Art Blue, the attorney, contacted the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. They went to Rudy's house where he lived, and he's far away from her. And they took Rudy to an interrogation room, and for hours they interrogated him. There is an investigation into her. There's definite investigation into Danielle Hatcher. Now, she can say there's not, but we'll find out. There was investigations and bar complaints on a guy named David Ozay. David Ozay, and this is an interesting time frame. This is a little tidbit. This is going to be a nugget that y'all didn't see coming. And we don't know exactly where it's going to take us yet because we can't get all the information yet. But last year, give you a little breakdown. May 6th of 2019, there was a thing that happened, and I was out here, and I'm on the farm, and we've got a thing called a mule, and it's a plow with a motor on it, so you can kind of plow down your little garden and have one out there. And I started to use that thing, and whenever I did, I didn't have any strength, and I'm usually pretty strong, but I had no strength, didn't know what was going on. I told Melissa, you know what, something's not right, I need to go to the hospital, so I did. And on May 6th of 2019, I drove myself to the hospital. I didn't feel right. And I told them something was wrong. They did an EKG, told me I was okay. And whenever they did that, I said, no, you need to check further. There's something wrong. And the doctor checked my blood gases and said, hey, there's something going on. You got something going on here. I said, I know. So it's a local little hospital. They don't have capability to handle anything. And they said, we've got to send you in an ambulance. We got to send you in a rescue squad quick. And I said, all right. And I told them I wanted to go to Wake Med. They sent me to Cape Fear Valley. I didn't want to go there. But long story short, they told me wouldn't be able to do an angioplasty. They had to do open heart. And because it's all 5 of my arteries, they had to take my heart completely out, put in 5 bypasses and put it back in. They did. I woke up and everything was fine. But right after that, I saw blood squirting all out my neck. Nobody's in there. And then the next thing I know, I'm in a coma for 12 days on a respirator. They didn't expect me to live, but I did. I lost 45 pounds, damn near died, lost a lot of blood because they had a PICC line in wrong. And whatever reason, God decided to bring me back. And I just woke up. And ever since then, I've thought, what in the world is this teaching me? And I've tried to help others even more. I've been a little more empathetic. Last night I wasn't because I just didn't want to be. But May 6th of 2019 was an interesting date because Maria just found something interesting while she was looking. She was actually looking for the bloody thumbprint affidavit of David Ozay. And David Ozay is the Arizona guy who pistol whipped his stepdaughter. And it's in his own writ of habeas where he filed and in the Arizona record. And he used these bloody thumbprints. So she was looking for that because we were going to pull it up tonight, but she found something a lot better. Tell them what you found and what it said.
Here, I'll show you. This is Maricopa County. The State Bar of Arizona went after David Jose Romero Watson. Unfortunately, the case has been sealed. So I'm not able to see what all the complaint was. And here's the order sealing it. It is order granting the plaintiff motion, all in accordance with the formal order granting the State's Bar motion for protection order motion to seal portion of the State Bar's public record pursuant to this. So basically they sealed the record. So I don't know what the complaint was.
So here's the thing. An attorney can probably tell us more about why they would seal a bar complaint record. But my bet is that in there, David is a rat. And he probably ratted out the rest of these jokers. No telling. Maybe it's because it needed to go higher up. It's a different charge with him being a sovereign and bloody thumbprints and so forth. But the bottom line is there's stuff happening. David didn't put anything out there about it, but if you notice, his Facebook page is gone and he's using a fake one now. He's all in there with David Straight and all the rest of them. These are not coincidences. These things are coming around, and we've tried for years. And for whatever reason, certain officials have dropped the ball, just like they did on Alexandria Goddard and Kim Picasso down in Florida. But people die when that happens. People want to commit suicide when that happens. Bad things happen whenever agencies don't do their job. Now, keep in mind, I'm still telling you, we're going to go into the theory of what happened and show you some stuff on the murder. But right now, I want to go into something we didn't go into last night. And we have Melissa Foster. Melissa Foster is in Kentucky. And from our understanding, we know that Neely once before was allowed out of jail, and she claimed it was God, but reports were it was sexual favors with correctional officers that let her out in South Carolina. But now we have someone who has went to the authorities. Melissa Foster went there, and you remember, this is where it ties into last night, and that is that Ronnie Knowles had produced $3,000 of the $10,000 bail that John Gentry was raising, gubernatorial candidate John Gentry had raised. And others had given money, and they weren't happy because John Gentry had lied and said it was a, quote, fake charge. It was a very real charge. She really, really did it. Secret Service pinged her phones. Why was Secret Service involved? People were going over that last night and saying, well, maybe it's because of QAnon, Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. But let me tell you, here's something that I know about Secret Service. Number one, it may have been partially because of that, but Secret Service falls under the U.S. Treasury Department. And there was an advocate here who had a daughter that had some issues, and she was helping a guy who out of Charlotte who was producing fake cashier's checks. She was cashing them, and she was getting the money for other stuff. But she got a knock on her door, and it was from Secret Service. Secret Service. Why? Because her daughter was doing that. They wanted to talk to her, find out where she was, because counterfeiting, issues with money, counterfeiting, anything like that would also bring in Secret Service. Not to say that's what happened, but Melissa Foster, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Can you tell everybody, when it comes to Neely, there's an implication nobody else maybe has looked at, but you uncovered it. And there's a situation that happened there with Neely and the $10,000 bond. And while we don't know for sure exactly what happened, when you inquired, what is it that you came to know after going there and actually being there in person?
Well, this was in conversations that I had with people that were there. And I basically was asking why Kathy Watson had not been charged. I had been looking all over the place to see if she had been charged with something, because she has a home in Dawson Springs, Kentucky. And this is actually where the children were found and Neely was found. When the Amber Alert went out, they got tons of information, and there's an investigator that said, we have a good idea that where they were, and then they called in the Secret Service, and Secret Service got involved using their resources to track through the phone records and Neely's social media. Then when she was found and arrested and at that time she was arrested for kidnapping and 2 charges of custodial interference, and she was lodged in the Hopkins County Jail. And she was also facing additional charges in Logan County. And I'm assuming that was the second degree persistent felony offender. And as this went on, the investigators were talking about that there were other people in the Dawson Springs that were harboring Neely, and that future charges could come to those people that were harboring her. So that's why I was inquiring about if there was other charges coming in this case. And I had did some research and had found out that it was Kathy Watson's home in her Dawson Springs, Kentucky home. And apparently she has no charges, additional charges, such as lead investigator Stratton had stated in several articles and everything. They were going to present information on the people that were harboring her to the grand jury, but that didn't happen. So what's happened is this. She's on the witness list with prosecutors. So they're apparently, and I call it rat and roll here in Kentucky, you know, where if you're in trouble, you know, they kind of, the cops will pressure you, or the sheriff or investigators will pressure somebody and say, look, you can either cooperate with us or you can get a whole bunch of charges. So it kind of makes sense that she would be on the witness list anyway, because, you know, prosecutors, they're going to tell the story of what happened with all this. And you got to remember, this was before Neely had shot and killed Chris Hallett in Florida. So, you know, Kentucky was getting their case together here, and it actually makes sense that she would be on that witness list, because that's where the children were found and Neely was found in Dawson Springs at her home. Now, there's some other things that I uncovered also, and this is a statement of absolute fact, okay? The Commonwealth Attorney for Logan County, Mr. Neil Kerr, who is the prosecutor in Neely's case, okay? And Neely, on November the 17th, a Logan County grand jury handed down a grand jury indictments for 2 counts of custodial interference and second-degree persistent felony offender. The prosecutor, Commonwealth Attorney Neil Kerr, has entered and filed a conflict of interest in this case, okay? So the case has been assigned to a special prosecutor from the Kentucky State Attorney General's office, and I will be speaking with them later on this week. And there's a lot of other stuff that's going on. A lot of other investigations are being conducted. And I've ordered up everything that I possibly can get on this case, so I'll have a lot more coming later. Here in Kentucky, we do not have the e-filing, so we have to do it the old-fashioned way. And it's just gotta wait to go through a process before I can get it. So that's what I've been able to find out, and I'll hand it back.
So the bottom line here is there's an indication that somebody blew it in Kentucky, and she actually shouldn't have even been out on bail. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. You know, whenever you look at the persistent felony offender stuff, here in Kentucky, because of Neely's, if you go back and you look at all the different charges that she had, which I think Maria had put up those charges last night, there's lots of different mug shots, and she's been in trouble lots of times. It's looking like she had a probation officer who initiated those charges of persistent felony offender, because that normally comes from the probation officer and is handed over to the prosecutor for her to be charged with that also. And so I'm finding out that there's some other stuff that's went on here in Kentucky, and I'm looking into all that. But it's looking like we had a probation officer here in Kentucky that was trying to stop her from being released on that $10,000 bond, and being detained for a revocation hearing for being a persistent felony offender.
That's really good stuff. And that's possibly another failure of authority, which if it hadn't have happened, Chris Hallett would still be alive. Neely would not be locked up on second-degree murder charges right now and probably facing other indictments. And when you look at this, folks, I'm no lawyer, I'm no mind reader, but there's a reason why the other indictments came down later. Why did they come down later? We don't know, but that's an additional charge that's in there, persistent felony offender. And I'm going to tell you to all you women out there, you don't know Neely did this, she didn't do anything wrong. Okay. I guarantee you that the women that would say, that doesn't matter, these are fake orders, that's just a mugshot. If it was their husband who they're trying to get custody from and who they're trying to silver bullet in court, these women would be yelling up and down. Yelling, it's my husband, he's a persistent felony offender. Why is it it's different when it's your buddy? Why is it different when it's Neely? Why? I don't know. Because you chose sides, you're personally invested in it. But there comes a time when you got to say, you know what? That's my dog. He didn't used to bite me, but that joker had a history of biting people. He was good to me for a year, and now he's biting me and eating me up every time I turn around. But there's a reason why she's been in and out of court. There's a reason why her mother is always into these things. And someone, and what was her name that put that in the comments? No. It was a lady that posted a lawsuit. It's like a lot of interesting stuff keeps coming up. But for those of you following it, Marva, there's a lady named Marva Bliss who just posted in the comments and asked the question, why is there a lawsuit from 2019? And she posted the lawsuit number of Neely's mother filing against Neely. So there's a lawsuit there with a number that we'll have to look into. 2019, Neely filed a lawsuit. Wonder why. Bottom line
Can I iterate on that?
Yeah.
Both Melissa and I looked into that. That's the case that Hallett intervened. And we believe it was in order to make sure that for them to recognize her court order, her Kentucky court order of custody.
Okay, so her mother was filing suit in order to make sure the Kentucky order was entered. And when Hallett intervened, what exactly did Hallett intervene with? What did it do?
Her mother ended up being dismissed in the end.
Okay, so Hallett's stuff got through in the trash.
No. The case was dismissed. We believe that her mother dismissed it.
Okay. So she still had the court order from Kentucky. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of it is all this weird stuff these people are saying. You'd have to believe that everybody's and by the way, that Chad's trying to get back in. Chad, kiss my ass. You're not coming in here. If you got your recording, I have mine. I told the truth in mine. I don't. You may be right. It may have been me called you because you sent me your number, but I certainly don't know your number. And whatever reason, it doesn't matter who called who. You're a lying asshole. And no, you're not coming on. And you were traumatized last night. So go somewhere and find yourself a safe space. You and all the others that are worried about the big bad, rev it up, grabbing your leg, go over there, start you a show and play your 2 hours of audio. Because what I said is accurate. I stand by it. I dare you. I dare you. I say, just like I did last night, you're a nutless wonder. You're a nobody. You don't know what you're talking about. And you're a sovereign citizen with the likes of David Horowitz and that weirdo out there that you tried to get me hooked up with. That's the bearded one, looks like a leprechaun that beats his wife. So you can kiss my ass and go do your own thing. You said what you said. You said it on Merton Agent 19. I stand by that. Play that clip. on your page, and we'll post it up here. But you don't have a way to do that, Chad, because you said it. You said it. I got your ass. So I don't really need you. I'm gonna absolutely bring out everything about you and every one of your people, but that's for a different show. And I will research until, I don't know, my fingernails fall off, and I'll find everything on you, and I'll make it public, and I'll put it out there. And I would invite you to do the same to me, but I'll have no more of you sovereign citizen little bitches saying anything on my show. Now we're back to the point where we got Neely down there in Florida. We got all this other weird stuff. We're still going to bring out this other explosive thing that comes out because of what happened last night. But let's skip over real quick and do. I don't see Rudy Orr in here trying to come in here because he was going to bring in some information. But let's do it this way. Let's talk about some shiny things. We were going to go over shiny things last night and what they are. And here's what they are. When it comes to shiny things, what started this whole thing was back in the end of 2017, Francesca Amata Banfield had came out with a worldwide international, and it's always something really big like this, and there won't be but 10 or 12 people on it, but she always comes out with a big shiny thing. And the first shiny thing I ever saw was right at the end of 2017, and that was Francesca would be punished for protecting Arrest a Judge Day, the Citizen Arrest Day. Now, what was that? That was where Francesca was saying the way to win your kids back and get your family back home is you literally go in and do a citizen's arrest of a judge. Well, people were posting it everywhere. They're just sharing it like crazy. Just like I'm saying now, they didn't check it out to see whether it would work, whether it was crazy, whether it was foolishness, and they just did it. So people were telling me that I should share it on my shows. I should promote it. And then they got mad because I didn't. And they said, why aren't you doing that? And I said, because I'm not stupid. Y'all can be stupid all you want. Well, that set up a nightmare. And I had just done a little Ted Fogg, the one who was drunk and beat Lotus down in the cabin in Georgia that we showed you last night. He had called me one morning at 10:30 and told me Francesca Amata was doing a show, and she was doing it on ICWA, which is the Indian Child Welfare Act. I was working, and he said, I said, well, good. That's really good. I don't even know who she is. And he said, well, she's got a show. She's really well known, and she needs somebody. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, she's doing it on ICWA, but she doesn't know anything about ICWA, and she doesn't have any Native Americans. So I agreed to go on there. I did the show with her. Then she came out with that foolishness, and I refused to share it. And by the time we had gotten to Georgia, many people, because I had put it out there, I said, I'm not sharing this foolishness. And that caused a fight because I wouldn't share stupid, shiny things. That's what made Fran not go to Georgia. That's what made it happen. And the people loaded me up with stuff. So whenever she didn't go, it's been a war with her. She kept me in Facebook jail for a year because of that. A year, because I did a little video when we left there, and I said, you know what, it's going to be my mission to go on you because you are crazy, and I'm going to expose your ass. And it's been one shiny thing after another. And you had the arrest a judge. Then you've had, and some of you will know what these are, and we're not going to pull them all up, but you can look at them. But it's the way that they get people into positions that Neely was when they exhaust you. And what it is, they throw you one snake oil salesman thing after another. So we go from arrest a judge, then we had the award, and that's a guy named Philip Hodak. The arbitration, it gives you the right to do whatever, and you can do whatever. Then you have the affidavit. Then you have the bloody thumbprint affidavit. You have the dreaded John Gentry, we the people. That went down in flames. Then you have the immunity. Then you have the remonstrance. Then you have the put all the DAs and judges on notice. Fran is serving them. You see her serving them. She was doing that with Anthony Sabelli. And then, now look, this is how dangerous it is. Now I'm going through the shiny things, but I'll throw in a little bit of where are they now. Anthony Sabelli. He's Jose's friend. He's Fran's friend. Those of you that are listening, if you don't think these people are dangerous, listen to this. Fran was promoting this guy. She had him with her and videoed live at a DA's office. Matter of fact, it was Lakeisha James, the Attorney General's office in New York. And why were they there? They were there because Fran was serving the New York Attorney General. Yeah, and he's there. Why does that matter? Why does that matter? While we're right here, let's kind of combine a shiny thing with they're dangerous and crazy. And where are they now? Maria, can you just Google Anthony Sabelli domestic terrorist? Now, if y'all think I'm kidding you, these are real people. They're people promoted by all these idiots. Hallett too. Hallett and him were really good buddies. And you wonder why this stuff happens. But let's look at Anthony Sabelli and see what's going on with Anthony Sabelli. Have you found an article yet? Shouldn't be hard. Now, those of you out there, Anthony Sabelli, Cibelli, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to find. What you're going to find is, and this is going to kind of go to what we're going to bring out on the big grand slam on Neely and her husband and military bases here in a minute. But Anthony Sabelli was a soldier stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is about 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now as the crow flies, right up 295. You can find Fort Bragg Special Operations, a lot of stuff going on Bragg. Largest military installation on earth. And Sabelli was stationed there, but he'd been overseas. So he came back and he decided to get some night vision goggles. He decided to get some frag grenades. He decided to get some percussion grenades. He decided to make some homemade bombs. Homemade bombs. So what did they do? They caught him. They were doing a sting on drugs and other stuff. And he got caught up in a sting in New York. So he's in New York in an apartment, Anthony Sabelli is. And he's got some of these grenades and improvised explosive devices with thermite in them. And what does he do? He throws them out the window down onto the roof below. This is Fran's buddy. This is David Jose's buddy, Alex buddy. Pendergrass's friend. The Unabomber, we call him. But Sabelli tosses them out onto there. There's DOJ press releases on this guy. Look, did that matter? Before they let him into the group and took him to an attorney general in New York's office, did they care? No. They were like Teresa Brewer. You won't look it up. You won't know. Is that crazy? This guy got prosecuted and went to prison as a domestic terrorist, not as running a red light and running over a social worker. This guy was a domestic terrorist and went to prison. And you know what? Fran and them are trying to help him get his kids back too. Him and Neely would probably be a good couple. Two turtle suits. This is not a game. This is not a game, folks. This is real life. This is how stupid the people you're following are. And it makes you look ignorant. It makes all of us look ignorant. And when we come out and you're people like me and we're trying to say, there's bad stuff goes on in family court. You have no due process. Your constitutional rights don't matter. You can't get exculpatory evidence in there. Brady law violations are happening everywhere. And these people are trying to stamp bloody thumbprints and tell you foolishness and the fringe on the flag and, oh, I didn't run over a social worker. I just blew a red light. Really? And then you got court orders. You got everything in the world going on. And they want you to ignore that because it's all fake. According to Chad, it's all fake. But you know what they can't produce? They can't produce one victory at all amongst all of them where any of that shit is worked. I don't care whether you're a vessel in dry dock, you're maritime, admiralty, got a flag with fringe around it or not. Give me your oath. Give me your license. There's no license to practice the law. Okay. This is stupid. And the ones of you doing it are stupid. And then how many more shiny things do we have? E clause. I'm filing it into Congress for you, Neely. Oh yeah, I'm doing your bindings, Neely. Oh, I'm doing this over here, lack of jurisdiction. Well, none of that, not a damn bit of it is work. Is one shining thing after another. It is. And you know what? I'm getting bored with it. Let's just jump right now to the where are they now and kind of look at the picture. I'll go over the things. We'll get that out of the way, and then we're going to tell you what the bombshell is from last night that I figured out during the show and what was revealed that some just didn't see. And I was trying to get to it. It was eating me up. My nerves were all to pieces. But do we have the photograph of Francesca's Justice League? And there were several of them. And I apologize to those of y'all that we didn't blot out your faces. I know you're embarrassed. But the truth is, you were sucked in like many are being sucked in right now by Neely and her mother and Hallett and Teresa Brewer and all of these maniacs. And that's all they are. Most of them don't have a case worth fighting, so they have to make something up. So who all can we find in this picture and what has happened to them? So this is one of, can you blow that up bigger? I don't even know, or I'll take some stabs at it. Okay. And I can tell you a few of the people, and I'll just go over it. Billy Elson. We got Billy Elson up there, and Billy Elson was like Fran's right-hand man. I met him down in Georgia, as a matter of fact. And Billy Elson, as far as I know, everything's going okay with his cases and everything. But Fran, whenever she was going to Georgia, a funny thing happened. And that was that Billy Elson went over to Fran's house, according to Billy Elson. And whenever she did, Fran and a woman named Corinne Featheroff, were in the basement, and they were dressed in lingerie. And they were trying to seduce him and photograph it when they were all trying to go to Georgia to a Senator Nancy Schaefer rally about children that I spoke at. He left them there because they tried to set him up. He turned on her. He told us all about it in Georgia. His girlfriend then was Melanie Lee Herring. She was down there. What's happened to her? She's fell off. She's in this picture. She fell off the face of the earth and thinks that she's a Jewish princess or Esther or someone now, and changed her name to something ridiculous. Billy Elson, he's still back over there with Fran, but we have recordings where Fran told about the whole thing and said that he sexually assaulted Corinne Featheroff. So we'll just jump over to Corinne Featheroff. She's in this photograph, or one of them like it. And Corinne, we have photographs, and I can post them on the Watchman, but she goes by a fake name now. Fran had paid for a rental car. She was in Pennsylvania, and whenever they were there, Fran went to a court case. Fran, Danielle Hatcher, and Featheroff. Featheroff was snorting Adderall and doing some other drugs there. And Fran had her boobies hanging out, thinking that would influence the judge. And they all went to the thing, and they're just partying and revving it up. Before it's over with, though, months later, Featheroff has taken a car that Fran paid for, part of the rental, and she's down in Georgia. What's she doing in Georgia, this Corinne Featheroff, superhero of Fran's Justice League? She was selling ass at the Masters. She's right now a stripper, according to her fake profile name, and she's working the pole and doing some escort work. That was a disaster, but that's another one Fran had you doing. Of course, Danielle Hatcher is in here. What happened to Danielle Hatcher? Well, she lost her rights to her kid. She don't even get to talk to her anymore. She ended up being in a turtle suit, shitting in her hand and putting it on the walls of a jailhouse. Then we have Don Rufty. He's doing okay. He had a thing here called the Carolina Nickel. It was a little newspaper. I like Don. I don't know how he got tangled in there with Fran, but I like Don. And then we've got Brian Kenner. He's doing okay. He's not going to jail. They put a lot of pressure on him because he keeps pressure on them. We got Amanda Anderson. She was once in the camp with Fran. As a matter of fact, she was down in Georgia. And that's where she woke up. And she knew she had to get away from that stuff. And once she did, you know what? She's doing fine. Her case is going fine. And she's has all the contact she would like with her children, and everything is fine. In other words, she got away. She's lucky. She's very lucky. Then we have some in here. Let's think. I think we got Lee Kenworthy in here. We know his disaster. He's running up and down the East Coast having a mental breakdown. We got Fran herself. She's the great wonder. She'll tell you she wanted everything, but the New York Supreme Court even ruled against her, and she lost everything that she filed, but she'll lie and tell you she won. As a matter of fact, she just lost custody to her son. She lost custody, and this woman also kidnapped her son and went to West Virginia to be around Philip Hodak. And that's another one that Fran promoted the award of, and everything going on in there. We got John Gentry. I don't know if John was one of these or not, but I'll chuck his ass in there. John Gentry is one who thought he knew everything, and he sued his wife, and he unsuccessfully lost all the way up as far as you could go. Thought it was going to go before the U.S. Supreme Court. We talked about it a little bit last night, in that it would have been Brett Kavanaugh, newly seated U.S. Supreme Court justice, who had already shot down his foolishness at the lower level. And when we were in Tennessee, John was touting his bindings and how he was going to win. And it was the best way to, quote, heal the nation, which was a joke. He lost, and then he came out with the remonstrance, and he goes over to Tennessee General Assembly. He talks a lot, and they run him out, and that's the end of that. So now he needs to be governor or king of the world or something. And I think personally that the guy's a flaming whatever. And he's got a trophy wife to make it look like he's got a wife, and he really doesn't, because I think his passions lie somewhere else. Him and Kirk had an interesting relationship with the reach arounds and everything in it, and they had the associations with Neely, and John actually produced the money and the campaign to raise $10,000 to get Neely out. So if we wanted to blame somebody, we should blame John Gentry for getting Neely out and having Halleck killed. Who knows? Then when we look at these others on here, there's a lot of people that are just innocent. They were sucked into believing a lie. And it's because it looks really good. You know, you got a great body, nice everything going on in these photographs. They're photoshopped, though. They're not real. Now, it's funny to me that fake advocates with fake legal strategies will tell you that when you produce a real court order, is fake. They'll always accuse you of that which they are doing, and they'll have no evidence whatsoever to back it up. None. So that's a little bit about where they are now, and we went over enough of the shiny new thing. So what I'd like to do is show people what I call a time to be men conversation, which is what started out after John Gentry's Tennessee thing, where I was there and I showed you the photographs. And Gentry was working tightly with Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett. He was doing Kirk's Law Corner all the time with them. He was really just promoting his own stuff because he's a selfish prick. And the reason this case was going on, I asked last night with Ronnie Knowles if he knew, and he didn't. But it was really because John Gentry wanted his ex-wife to pay him alimony, and he lost. That's why he's mad. He doesn't have any children. I'm not sure that he can make any, especially with the sexual lifestyle. But John Gentry created this little group that I'm going to show you here. And it was a messenger group because what had happened was Chris Hallett had a way of threatening people. And Chris Hallett, there was a time when Dana Williams, who's a lady that was in New York, she had twins, she had an Alabama thing going on, and she was violent too. She had actually set people's cars on fire, according to the records down there. But she had a husband who was the baby, the children, the two twin girls' father, and he was from Croatia. And Fran had screwed her all up by having her go be loud and protest and try to arrest judges. And she had lost all of her custody. They were placed somewhere else. And her ex-husband was going to fly them out to Croatia. And she sent us the passports. Yeah. And she said, look, Fran has screwed me over. I'll do whatever if you'll help me. We didn't do anything legally, but we contacted certain people and told her exactly what to do. And she was able to obtain a court order keeping those two girls from flying out to Croatia. We had 5 days to do it. And we told her, don't tell Fran we're doing anything for you. Don't tell Fran we're helping you, because she would destroy it. and you need to take all your stuff off Facebook. She got the order, and then what she do? Went right back out there with Fran, went loud, got in more trouble, had him taken again. But here's what started it with Hallett. Hallett all of a sudden starts posting everywhere how he had worked with her and got a court order keeping her kids from going to Croatia. He was lying. He was a fat bastard lying. He's gone now. It doesn't matter. I can talk about him. He was lying. He put it out on Facebook. I called him out in the post he made. Whenever I called him out in the post that he made, he just went on, I'll roll you over. Hashtag roll you over. And I said, boy, what in the hell? So John Gentry, I said, dude, you want me to work with you on stuff? And yet these are the people you associate with, and they lie, they put out lies, and they try to threaten people. I'm not one to be intimidated. And he started this group in order to go over it. And this is going to have a lot of little content. It's real quick. Then we're going to get to the masterpiece of tonight, which is what was really revealed last night and how it ties in and who it implicates as conspirators in a murder of Chris Hallett. So what do we have here, Maria? I can't, it's so tiny.
It's time to be men. I can try to zoom it in, but that sometimes you lose what's written. I put them in order based on how you sent them to me. So okay. I hope that they're in regular order.
If you could go through them, you're going to kind of have to narrate this one and read it because I'm not going to be able to see it. But I want people, I kind of set it up as to what this is about. And you're going to see some interesting things in here. And one of them blows my mind even to this day. But I want people to know this is where the history of the back and forth with the frauds happened. Because I didn't know until I knew, just like you won't know until you're in the know. And I hope they leave this today knowing.
Well, basically, it starts out where John Gentry says that the PM was sent. And it's, do you want me to read everything?
Well, the important parts, and you can kind of look at them and see because there's high
well, basically,
points. We'll post all of this to the Watchmen so you can see it for yourself, by the way.
Basically, what they're saying is, this was sent to me. He's giving you telling Chris that he was given an opportunity to come clean. And instead, Chris made an unsupported allegation without any proof. No defense of yourself. And then he said, please hold your comments until he's finished. Randy, in turn, chooses to put his principles above that of helping heal our nation. Sometimes we must sacrifice our principles for the greater good. We know who the enemy is. We don't need to create more enemies.
Now, folks, I want you to think about something. This is John Gentry saying in here that I am putting my principles above the healing of the nation. Now, I want you to think about something because in my mind, if a nation has no principles and you must disregard your principles in order to have a healing of a nation, you're going to have a principleless nation. And this is a man that now is running for governor of the state of Tennessee. So what's he going to tell the people there? You need to put your principles aside and vote for John G. Gentry, Big John, because I'm gonna take away your principles and you disregard those, but we're going to have a healed up Tennessee. Now think about that. All right, let's go on. Because he calls Hallett out at one point. Pendergrass gets all in it. And then we've got even some recordings that were in these messages.
Yeah. So basically, Gentry's whining because Randy states he will not support his efforts any longer. And to be honest, Randy, I have not seen support from you. Have not added a single person to the group. Now, this is what I think he's talking about. We the people and that ridiculous lawsuit he was going to submit
and I told him I thought it was stupid and I wasn't adding nobody to it because I thought it was stupid. And he said it is the best way to heal the nation.
And it went nowhere.
I think you're stupid. And it went right where I said, in the trash.
And then, of course, here's Hallett being all aggressive. My opinion is simple here. I'm done playing Facebook games. I came home after work all day only to face this. As far as I'm concerned, anyone who wishes to join in on any attacks against me will find themselves on the outside looking in. If someone has the stones to pull something like that and make a fool of themselves in public, say goodbye now. And then, they go back and forth and, about you not supporting him or whatever. And then he wants you guys to act like men and resolve this.
Yeah. And how
And
it doesn't.
No. He said, nothing to resolve at this point. I've made an appearance into a case and I don't need outsiders who have no clue meddling in on affairs they obviously don't understand.
He's made an appearance into a case. Now, what in the world case is he talking about? That's Elizabeth Byler's case. He didn't make no appearance in that case. He filed a notice of appearance, and Alexandria Goddard included it. It was sent to her. That was ignored. Karen Pettit Materna contacted the court because she was trying to stop him from screwing up Byler's case, which eventually she got TPR'd because Chris no-showed. He no-showed. He destroyed her case, everything. I'm not saying she would have won. I don't know. But here's the deal. When you got a fake attorney filing fake notice of appeals, but they say every order you got is fake. But when you get that TPR, that's real. When you go to jail, that's real. And this joker is still hanging on to this belief, even though that woman was contacting me, and it's a Friday. It's a Friday. She's got court on Monday. Her church raised money to fly him there, and I got the receipts. What did Hallett do? Hallett lied, said that he was with Ron DeSantis, who's now the governor of Florida, and he had to help him out because he was on a big mission. He lies to y'all. He's a fat lying bastard. I'm sorry for his family. I am. I'm sorry they had such a shit rat bastard fat fucker for a father. He was a lying ass con man. And I intend to find out what he really did, because this guy had to have a day job. He ate a lot. So he had a damn day job somewhere. And it was not loss profession, loss protection agency, whatever, loss prevention, whatever stupid shit he came up with. He worked in an auto parts store. Okay. And I'm going to show it if I got to go to Florida and find it all. That's why there's no obituary. That's why the family's having a private service. But we need $25,000 for it. But we're going to get down here and you're going to see where I have a right to talk shit about this fat bastard. Because he liked it came. Let's find where he said what he said about. He didn't know. I didn't even know who Randy Davis was. And then we'll post the rest of it up and let him go with it, because I want to get down to busting down what happened last night.
He said right here, I will admit I did have Randy confused with Ronnie, which is my mistake, and I'm man enough to admit that. But after that little public shit show, which could have been avoided by a simple phone call, I have no time for volatile people in this. It's just not worth it. And he talked about how all I did was he got a call and he suggested that they call the State Department.
Yeah, he was lying. He jumped over on this, folks, because when I called him out for lying, he put out there, don't trust Randy Davis, because he was in a Florida case with a woman and he caused her to lose her rights to her children and go to jail. And he was lying. And I said, you're a lying bastard. And in this, which we'll post to the Watchman, you'll see where I said, post it. Post that shit. Just like I tell Chad and the rest of them, you got something, post it. Post it and I'll eat it. I'll go over it with you. I'll let you publicly shame me for whatever it is you think you got. But when you're telling the truth, folks, you stand on your principles. If that's not the kind of person that you want around you, and you want these ones that can just tell you, then you go ahead. Because you know what? When a cop pulled me over that night that we were trying to find the video, which I'll post it later on my feed, I said, why are you pulling me over? License and registration. He wouldn't tell me. He had no badge. He had nothing. And finally, I gave them to him. And I said, now, why'd you pull me over? And he said these words, because I was told to. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When we were little, we had a different kind of school teacher. Our teacher said, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And they would also, if they asked us, why did you do that? Randy, why did you do that? If I said to my teacher, well, because little Johnny told me to, her answer would have been, well, if little Johnny told you to jump off a building, would you do it? Well, no. But nowadays, apparently, that's not common sense anymore, not taught in school. Because if Hallett says do it, you just do it. If Gentry says do it, you just do it. If Teresa Brewer says she's got it when she ain't, you just believe it. If you are one and you're a parent and you don't research what it is somebody's telling you, you ain't got sense enough to get on Google, you don't have sense enough to raise a child, much less to help somebody else in a court case. You couldn't handle the stand on your damn own. So if you don't have sense enough to leave the other bullshit alone and go research it and be prepared in court, you don't deserve your children, but you think you're going to get an easy way out because you asked the judge for his oath of office and talk about the flag and file a bloody thumbprint affidavit claiming you're sovereign and nobody has jurisdiction over your ass? Really? All right, what is it Hallett said down here that I feel gives me the right to bitch slap his fat ass?
Well, here you're saying nobody here answers the real question of how can you lead or support Chris lying about all that he's lied about? Because you previously said he lied about Dana, he lied about Nathan, he lied about Byler, you know, all that. And then Gentry says, Randy Scott Davis, you are not without blame. You would rather put your principles above healing our nation. So in other words, it's your fault that there's problems because you're not willing to compromise with your
That's
principles.
right. And that's your gubernatorial candidate for Tennessee. And let me tell y'all, folks, there's some of us that we don't have much. We don't. And if every little bit thing I have wasn't paid for when they did what they did to me, and if I didn't have a close-knit group of people behind me, I couldn't have made it 5 months in jail. I would have lost everything. I sold everything. I did everything I could to get my daughter back. I wasn't running around screwing everybody in the world and all over Facebook showing ass pictures and dick pics and private messages and looking for cooter pictures. I was focused on getting my child back. And that damn Chad, what would you do to protect your daughter? I tell you one damn thing. If Chad, maybe he should get in a car with Sue Blanchard. But if Chad and Sue Blanchard are wheeling around in their hoopty and tried to run over my youngin', I'll show you what I'd do. I'd show you exactly what I'd do. And he thinks for some reason, because it's a social worker, that's not somebody's mother. That's not somebody's sister. That's not somebody's daughter. That's not a human being. Most social workers are on the job less than 2 years. So before that, they worked at Walmart. After that, they worked at the library. And for whatever reason, during that one period of time, you're allowed to run over them because they're a social worker. You're idiots. So there's a place in here, though, that Hallett says a remarkable thing to me, and I want to read that one and then hear his two things, and we're going to get to the theory of last night and shut her down. But it's where Hallett says, I didn't know Randy Davis or whatever, and I'll be here long after he's gone.
Yeah, he says it right here. If he wants to run around calling people liars, so be it. I don't care. I know what I know for a reason. I was doing this long before I knew who he even was, and I'll keep doing long after he's gone.
And that means you are a liar, Chris Hallett. Chris Hallett, you said you'd be doing it long after I was gone. Can't prove that. Chad, can you drag that out and prove that he's still doing it long after I'm gone? I'm still here. Fat boy is gone. He is gone. The only good thing about Chris Hallett is that he must have had some gastric bypass surgery and lost half of his damn 400 and some pounds so that the pallbearers, if they have them and don't cremate him for $400, so that they don't have to carry his fat, flabby ass down the damn church pews. That's the truth. So those of you who say, you can't talk about a dead man, this man right here said he'd be doing stuff after I was dead, and I damn near was last year. That's right. Ventilator, coma, all kinds of stuff. They were going to pull the plug on me in 2 weeks, but I made it back. And you know what? If I didn't make it back for any other reason than to expose Hallett and the bullshit that's going on down there, I'm here. He's gone. His ass is gone. His game is up. The reason I bring that up to y'all folks is this. We're all going to go. But do you want to leave a legacy of when you die, they got all your hard drives and computers and phones in a police department going through them? Because I'm going to tell you something, and I've told people this from my heart. I don't have any evidence about what I'm about to say. But my bet is that when they comb through these hard drives and computers and laptops and communications between all of these people, there'll be perverted sexual stuff in there. And possibly, this is my opinion, children. Because those who accuse you like these people do are guilty of what they accuse. And what did they accuse? Oh, we have the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, said Homseth Hallett. And I believe they're going to find something. But I can tell you what they are going to find, and we're going to get on to what the big deal was about tonight, and that's what came out last night. Some of you watched it, and Ronnie Knowles was putting out the truth. I believe the man to be honest about what he said, and a bunch of things came out. Ronnie privately had told me, number one, these are things y'all want to think about. There were several people who sent me stuff and said that there's a woman who said she got a call from Shannon Mutter-Tanis after the murder of Chris Hallett, and that she was informed of the murder. And she, in turn, contacted Neely Petrie Blanchard. And that when she did so, Neely told her to get a recorder and record her testimony / confession. And that she did. I didn't ask her for it. I even invited her on here like I did everyone else. But I'll take her word for that. She also told me, or others told me, that Ronnie Knowles had recorded Neely's confession afterward. But the phone records that were shown, and they're out there, and we'll post them up to the Watchman. No need to go over them here and waste time. Those phone records indicate that Ronnie Knowles did attempt to contact her at 9:08, not just after this happened. And he didn't get her. 14 seconds, and he said he didn't get her. He said he didn't talk to her, but he said he talked to Robert. I let that slide, and during the show, I'm making all these notes. And I come back around and I said, Robert, who's Robert? And I know who Robert is. Many of y'all might have let it slip. I didn't. And I asked him, who's Robert? And that's Neely's husband, he says. Well, ex-husband, because she did an annulment. I started thinking, wait a minute. And then I asked the man questions, and he gave honest answers. And here's what's chilling. He laid out the whole timeline. He laid out the entire timeline. Nobody knew Neely was living on the military base with her husband. Nobody I knew. Nobody knew she rented a motel room Friday and stayed there. Nobody knew she had one so she could be there for Saturday night dinner and then leave. And if you remember, it was Shannon Mutter-Tanis who made a post about a food orgy. And it was some pasta and meat sauce. And there was a lot of interesting comments in there that inspectors, investigators, whoever agents might want to see. But it kind of went by the wayside. So Friday was the 12th. And then I was dead on the 14th. And then Neely, what we do know from everything we heard from Ronnie Knowles last night, Neely didn't have a gun. So whose gun was it? I haven't heard about anybody finding a gun. Where did the gun go? And we're going to propose a theory. It's just a theory, but it's a very good theory. We didn't know about that. We didn't know about an annulment. I thought it was strange that Neely's ex-husband, Robert, would be contacting a man that was poking his wife, who's still living with him, though. Very odd to me. And he had had other conversations with him, he said. And this man cared about Neely. And in the end, he's going to get a broken heart. He's going to get shattered because Neely doesn't care about anybody but Neely. And these other people are going to destroy him and lie. And maybe somebody does have a taped confession. I don't know. Does it matter to what I'm about to tell you? No. But now we know she didn't supposedly have a gun. We know from the affiant, which is an investigator or whoever, that the witness is there. Shannon Mutter-Tanis and her daughter especially, said there was yellow on a barrel. Could have been anything. There are yellow barrels, feminine guns, handguns, especially semi-automatic weapons that have yellow barrels. There are also military situations where a blank gun or a gun used in training will have a yellow thing there. There's also locks that go through and have to be removed, almost making it look like the gun was jammed. But you have to remove the lock before you can fire it. Could have been any one of those. Don't know. Not going to speculate on any of that, but here's what I do know. We do know that there was a problem with the timeline. And the problem is this. Shots were fired at 9 o'clock. Neely was out of there. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Now, that would have been Eastern time. Pensacola is Central time. It would have been 8 o'clock, but 9 o'clock. Neely isn't located until the next morning at 7:30, according to all reports. Well, that's 10 and a half hours. 10 and a half hours. So you got to think, though, if she had left from Pensacola and went over to Lowndes County, Georgia, where she was found, where was she going, number one? And why would it, can we pull up MapQuest and show how long it takes to get from Pensacola, Florida, over to Lowndes County, please, Maria? So how long is it showing? And look, folks, this is the whole thing here. So from Pensacola to Lowndes County, Georgia, takes how long? I think we're looking at the wrong line. We're looking at the line from Hallett.
Hold on. Are you looking for?
I'm sorry, you were right. I should have said
Right,
Marion Oaks.
going from Marion Oaks to Lowndes County is well, it depends on which route you take. Anywhere from 2 hours and 22 minutes to 3 hours and 11 minutes.
Okay, we'll just say 2 hours and 30 minutes. It could have taken more, but we'll say 2 hours and 30 minutes. We'll say she used GPS. Okay, so if she had left from Chris's and went directly to where they found her, we got a problem, because where did the other 8 hours go? What was she doing for 8 other hours? And that was what I was thinking about. Why in the world 10 and a half hours to go 2.5 hours? Didn't add up. But let's see this. Let's just say, what if, and this is speculation, of course, and a theory, but I believe we might come up with something plausible. But if Neely left from, and we're going to tell you why I feel this in a minute too, but if Neely left from Marion Oaks at the scene of Hallett's bleeding dead body, and she went over to Pensacola, which is in the Panhandle, how long does it take to get from the scene of the murder to Pensacola?
5 hours and 39 minutes.
So 5 hours, we're going to call it 40 minutes for simplistic reasons. 5 hours and 40 minutes. And how long would it take if somebody had left, let's say, the military base in Pensacola and went over to Lowndes County, Georgia, to arrive at 7:30 the next morning?
9 hours and 42 minutes.
You mean total? That's the number you're giving, because it's 5 hours and 40 minutes from Marion
it's
to
total. It's total
Pensacola.
hours.
So how long does it take to get from Pensacola to Lowndes County?
4 hours and 3 minutes.
4 hours, 3 minutes. So when we add those together, meaning what Maria just said, leaving from Marion Oaks at the scene of the dead body, driving over to Pensacola, where her husband's on a base and she lives, leaving from there and going to Lowndes County, Georgia, it would be 5 hours and 40 minutes plus 4 hours and 3 minutes total driving time for 9 hours and 43 minutes. So we'll just call it 9 hours and 45 minutes. Okay. Now, if we look at the total time from 9 o'clock until she would win the body, and we're just saying it's 9 even, but that's when shots were fired. No telling what happened. According to them, there was a few minutes where she supposedly stood around. But we say 9:45 at night. There is no time difference because Pensacola would have been in a different time zone. But over here on the East Coast, it's not. So what do we have? If, and let's just say if Neely killed Hallett in Marion Oak, drove to Pensacola, and say dropped the gun off with her husband, ditched the gun, whatever, and then drove over to Lowndes County, Georgia, that would have taken 9 hours and 45 minutes if there was no stops or break. But it took 10 hours and 30 minutes total from the time the killing happened to her to be found. So that's a difference of 45 minutes. So what I'm going to suggest to you, if it took 15 hours to go that far, it would be implausible because she'd have to be on a rocket ship. Okay. But is it plausible that Neely killed Chris Hallett, left and went to Pensacola, gave the gun to her husband to hide it? Maybe it came off the military base. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was his. Maybe it was hers. Maybe it was Chris's, but she still needed to ditch it there. Does it matter? Not really. I'm sure they're going to find out. But why would I even think her husband might have been involved in this? Why do I think she might have left from Chris's, went to her husband, which is home, by the way, and then went back over there? Because of what happened last night. Because what happened last night, number one, I didn't know that Robert, her husband, was even in the picture. I really didn't. Maybe some of you did. But I certainly didn't know that he was having conversations with the guy, Ronnie Knowles, who's sleeping with his wife. That's odd. And I wouldn't have thought that he wanted her over there with Hallett when Kirk was paid by Randy Q. Erickson to go down to Hallett's in Florida in order to help Hallett with the Homeseth case. But Randy Q. Erickson became irritated with Kirk because instead of going to Hallett's, he went to Neely's and screwed Neely for like 4 months and never went to Hallett's. I don't think anybody can produce any evidence that Kirk and Hallett ever actually spent any time together. And that little incident, too, it is rumored, made John Gentry very angry because John Gentry apparently had a thing for Neely and a thing for Kirk. So he was your governor up there. But last night, what was said that interested me and caught me really hard, the annulment. Why would a service member want to get an annulment? Why was she getting an annulment? Is there an annulment filed? Well, I'll tell you why you might want one. If you're in the military, and especially if you're an officer or have a security clearance, your wife being in a situation where she's out on a $10,000 bond for kidnapping is a major security issue. That's a security issue. That's a clearance issue. Big one. Because the one thing that I was wondering is, maybe some of y'all didn't catch it, but while Ronnie Knowles is talking last night, I caught it. And it's what really got me hyped up. It wasn't about Chad, but it's because I started to see this thing coming together. And what did I see? Ronnie Knowles said, dang, Robert messaged me and said, get off the show. I don't know if y'all caught that or not. Why would Neely's ex-husband, supposedly, but still really her husband, why would Neely's husband message a guy that's on my show to get off my show? Does he not like my show? Why was he watching my show? Was somebody else watching the show, conspiring with him to cover up something? Or did he watch it himself? If you're out there, Robert, I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate you watching the show. But you know what? If I were you, I would be thinking that people might think you were involved. Because why else would you want your husband's lover, one of them, to get off a radio show on Facebook, on Zoom? Why? And why would these numbers, when you add everything up, we don't know whose gun it is. We know it's apparently not been discovered yet. And maybe she didn't go there to dump the gun. Maybe she did. Maybe it was a military gun. Maybe that's why it had yellow on it. It was a training gun, needed to get back into wherever it was taken from. Maybe she threw it out along the way, but she had to go back to get something else she wanted. Where was she going in Georgia? I don't know. But here's what I do know. I know that Robert has a reason to try and cover up whatever truth was coming out, and they didn't see it because they didn't think that Ronnie Knowles would come on. I didn't know he was coming on. I had reached out to him like I did the others, but I know he did come on. And I know because he came on, we have more facts than we had before. We now know where she stayed. We now know she stayed in a motel. And look, if she did go back and meet her husband, you're in deep shit, Robert. I guarantee you there's security cameras everywhere. There's cameras at the gate. There's cameras all over the place, and your ass is smoked. And if I were you, I wouldn't be worried about any of this other stuff. What your security clearance is the least of your damn problems, dude. Yeah, you may. I'm not a JAG officer or a professional on military conduct, but your ass, you may be in some deep shit because the timeline works. And if she stopped and got a burger, or decided to wash the blood splatter off, or change her clothes at home, maybe to get the blood splatter off of her from popping him so many times, you better hope you weren't there. But folks, that's the thing I see as the biggest thing going right now. Number one, all these agencies dropped the ball on these sovereign citizens, and a man is dead and a woman's in jail. Other people have tried to commit suicide, lost their children and everything else. How damn much has to happen? When is the government going to be accountable? When are we as advocates going to say, you know what, it's not okay to just call the guy a liar and not show it? It's not okay. I'm not saying this is a definite what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that it fits the timeline. And there were people that weren't saying it, but they were concerned about how come it took Neely 10.5 hours to go 2.5 hours. See, some of us use critical thinking and we think things out. And we figure them out. And that's what makes us smarter than the rest of you. That's just how it is. And if you don't start doing your research on your own cases and using some common sense, and you want to follow Teresa Brewer, you want to follow Randy Q. Erickson, you want to follow Holmes Seth, you want to follow Chad, and you don't look to connect the dots, you'll lose because you're going to end up in it. And let me tell you, if you're in a DSS case and it's really one where it's bogus, the way you win is not in court. You win by connecting the dots and figuring who's who and why are they coming at you. But all cases are not like that. Some cases are actual real cases. Some people have been mean to their children. They have abused them. They have neglected them. I'm not talking about the woman or man who had a dirty dish in the sink. A dirty dish in the sink has been used to take children before, and I have seen it. And that's wrong on a lot of reasons. Number one, it shows somebody was cooking, somebody was eating, somebody was being fed. And that's not a reason to take a child. But if you're out here and you're reeking of meth, you can't pass a drug test. You're calling domestic violence calls on your ex all the time, or you're like Neely and got 50 mug shots. It ain't bad luck. It's not that they're targeting her. It's not. And this shit that y'all are putting out and Kirk Pendergrass is putting out, which we cannot still find anything showing he ever served in the U.S. Marines and was honorably discharged. So you believe whatever you want. I don't know. Does it matter? Not really. Because I don't believe anything else that the guy says. He screwed everything. Yeah. The only sex that Kirk Pendergrass turns down is John Gentry, and he turns him face down. Now there's a little something. So what I'm going to say is this. I don't care if you follow me. I don't want your cases. I don't want to advocate for you. We're putting stuff on teamrevitup.com so you can learn from it. I appreciate the people that appreciate me. I appreciate the people that believe in me. I appreciate the people that support us by spreading the word. I really do. But I'm not begging for nothing and haven't taken a dime from anybody. And there are lawyers who care. There are social workers who care. There are teachers who care. We care. But one thing about it, if we all don't come together and say we're going to take out the trash and then do it and then hold ourselves and our people accountable, then this thing will never go anywhere. It will never succeed, and we will spin our wheels, and the disaster American Families and Safe Adoption Act Title IV funding. It's not just Title IV, by the way. It's like Title 14, Title 9, Title 7, if you're native, Title 19, Title 20. There's a lot of titles under Social Security Act which that money pours into. If we don't come together and try and understand one another and try and root out the evil and the nasty that is in it, we'll end up like Neely, we'll end up like Hallett, or we'll end up like Orlena Wills, who's looking at 48 months in prison, or Melissa Deagle, who's looking at 140 years in prison. And you can call it fake all you want to, but you won't be serving them sentences with them. You won't be there behind that jail wall, looking at cinder blocks at night, dreaming of ramen noodle, happy when you're the one that got a letter slid under the door, awaiting the time to hear, Davis, roll your shit. Pop B112, Pop B112. That's what I heard. And I rolled my shit and I walked out of there. And that's real. That's reality. But you don't want to be in there. Don't think for a minute that you really do. I'm just saying I love you all. I appreciate you all. I think Neely did it. I think her husband knows, and I think they got upset and messaged Ronnie Knowles because he was afraid the truth was going to come out, and I hope he goes to prison if he did it. I hope his military security clearances are ripped if he did it, and I hope they find that gun. I hope that they find me wrong on all this, and it was just a random stranger that nobody knew in a bad drug deal that he thought Chris was doing whatever. I hope the truth comes out, though, either way. And with that, rev it up. I'm done.